On Sam. We're live. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to Meet the Artist. My name is Sarah Danziger, and I'm the Education Program Manager here at CBW. We are thrilled to have you all here for this week's Meet the Artist event, which is made possible, as always, by a generous grant from the Arnold and August Newman Foundation. Tonight we are joined by the fabulous Angela Cappetta. She is a documentary-style photographer preferring deeper projects where she can hide in plain sight. She uses edgy warmth to convey a unique blend of intimate, poignant, and sometimes humorous views of the human condition. Angela is from New Haven, Connecticut, one of the most economically and racially segregated cities in America, and where she got her start. Cappetta has received numerous grants and recognitions, including a NIFA Photo Fellowship, a VCCA residency, and 3 McDowell Fellowships. Blind Magazine called her a wild child, and The New Yorker highlighted Angela in a feature-length interview. She has been featured in other publications such as Dazed, W, Lol de Photography, Glamour Brazil, and Huck. Preferring analog methods, Angela shoots primarily with a 6x9 and a Leica. She is known for her masterful command of flash and processes and prints much of her own work. Her photographs are in collections worldwide, including that of Agnes Gund, the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Smithsonian, the New York Public Library, the Carlsbad Museum, and Center for Photography at Woodstock. Cappetta's first monograph is available for sale over here and was published by Lautiere. So without further ado, I'll stop with my terrible Italian accent and let's welcome Angela. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. So I was asked to speak about my book, my first book, and it's called Glendalis, The Life and World of a Youngest Daughter. I am myself a youngest daughter, and I guess I'll just start at the beginning. So this was my canvas. The 90s, rent was cheap, art was everywhere. This was the Lower East Side. We lived there because we could afford it. It wasn't the, kind of strange, shiny thing it is now with tattoo parlors and bars, barbershops, and chic boutiques and stuff like that. So it was really just kind of a dump, and it was beautiful, and I loved it, but it was affordable, and that was why we lived there. So I would go out and photograph every morning, and I met a family on my street, and there were these open fields on the Lower East Side. These were just these undeveloped pieces of land where the men would kind of go outside and put huts and drink and smoke and listen to the game, and the kids would come out and play, and they would train the dogs out there, and it was, that was what it was like. So this was the day I actually met the family, and this was a pretty common occurrence. Just everybody would just gather outside and sit outside on a nice day, and that was my first experience of meeting them. And I want to say that I photographed a great many families and a great many things. I was essentially a street photographer, and this project is about this family. I didn't just shoot them. I shot a lot of things, but the editing kind of, as it progressed, revealed itself to shape around this family. So this is the subject of one of the subjects of the book, but the youngest daughter, Glendalis, I'm a youngest daughter, so I sort of wrapped the narrative around her. And again, this was a pretty common scene. You could see one of the empty lots, and there's her dad and her uncle and her dad's truck, and it was just a family affair every day. This was going into the building. I wanted to show a progression of the work outside and then the work inside into the home. And this was the building where the family lived. I was raised like this, kind of multi-generationally, with everyone stacked on top of each other. No privacy, no boundaries. It was something I was very used to. And this is, again, a street scene. I actually went back to this street, and that sign and that tree are still there. That's now a barbershop, though. It's where it says TV service. It's now like a Lower East Side barbershop. It's a spring scene on the street, school uniform, kids, in the morning. It was just a neighborhood like any other. This is one of the huts that were in the empty fields. The men would just sort of construct these, highly suspicious structures, and like my dad probably would have gotten away with this. And that you could see the cannon Budweiser. It was just like looking at anybody's family. But this is all medium format color, 6x9. That's the grandmother. So she lived below the daughters, and there was the grandmother and then the father, and everybody lived there. There were also a great many extended family members. And there's also a lot of clothing that gets reworn, and you can see that as the kids grow up, they're wearing clothes that used to fit them and they're outgrowing them. And I really love that. So this room is one of the rooms in an aunt's apartment. And this is the same room. And they're playing. Can someone identify what that is? A Nintendo? I don't know what it is. Thank you. Super Nintendo. So I guess they're, chilling out with the Super Nintendo. What's the new one called? A Switch? Nintendo Switch. Right. So this is the girls' room, and, bunk beds, TV. It was a standard classic tenement apartment. This is, it was very important to me that it didn't look like anything other than just a regular family. So this is going to one of the cousins' apartments on Avenue D. And I was actually down there a few days ago. It still pretty much looks like this. And this is the aunt's apartment. And if you look in the background, you can see the World Trade Center. So this is the only picture that really has a title. It's called World Trade Center, because I know if you said that's what it was called, I would know what picture it is. It doesn't really have any deeper meaning than that. And there's a lot of homework being done on the stove, and trapper keepers, and pictures on the fridge, things I love. And the sisters just kind of all undoing her braids.
What's their ethnicity?
They're Puerto Rican. And Walkman. They're back apparently. So the salon, was visited pretty regularly. So there was a lot of stuff that happened inside and outside of the salon. These gardens are still there. I know that they were on the chopping block at one point when I think Giuliani was mayor. And then I think Bette Midler bought all of them. So they were protected. So these gardens are actually still there. And this is the same garden, but in the summer with the same friend. So I followed them a lot throughout all the seasons and all the years, and I loved it. So this is the same skirt from this picture, but this is obviously summer. And, I always wore a lot of the same clothing too. So, I loved something and I wore it to death. And it's just such a kid thing to do. And then this is another Christmas tree picture after she's quite a bit older here, obviously. And then I also followed them to the salon, and I photographed them getting ready for parties. And this was a cousin's quince, and all the girls showed up, and they just took over the whole salon, as you can see here. And then, the Mitchell Llama housing once again. And this is where everybody's kind of coming back from the salon and their hair's ready and they're, waiting to get into their dresses. So the narrative really rotates around what the family was doing. And I didn't direct anybody. I just showed up and shot. So this is this cousin's Sweet 16. And then this is Glendalis's Sweet 16. And I think the cousin actually did a quinceañera. I think this is actually her 15. But Glendy did a 16. And you can see the cake. It's a 16. And she put in blue contacts. So there's a lot of, you're stretching the idea of what it's like to grow up and how you experiment with your look as you mature. And that's one of her aunts. I think she looks exactly like her. think they look exactly alike. But there were a lot of church basements where parties would take place, and this was a house party. And one day I just took a look, and she was all grown up. And then this bus ad was, I thought it looked just like her. So once and I would go out with them and follow them and just see things that would reflect back onto the family. Now this is a taxi ride, but then Glendy flipped the camera on me and she took that picture of me. And those are the last two pictures of the book. So you can see this is in one direction of the taxi, and then this is the other direction. And I'll go into, I got a tremendous amount of press for this project. It really resonated with people. I think anybody can relate to the family experience. And I think that's why it got a lot of attention. Now, this year, I began working on my second book, and it's of candid wedding work. So I thought I would just bring a little teaser. And they're all, don't have high expectations. They're all pictures of contact sheets. So this is how it starts, though. You mark them up, and you take pictures of your contact sheets, and then you just kind of edit a preliminary edit. And these pictures are all right before the iPhone came out. It's before the camera turned around. So it was really important to me to show that when someone's holding something to their face, it's actually a camera. I love this one. This is a wedding in Mexico I went to. So just kind of like the more unvarnished, the happier I am. This one, I just love that guy in the end. Look at the cigar smoke. It's just going all the way up the building. And I don't know. I mean, aren't we in an old cigar factory? Maybe somebody could explain. I don't know what's happening there, but I just pick people at weddings make me extremely happy. I also work with a panoramic format. So this is a custom camera that I had made, and you can print it in a regular and larger, which is why I like it. And I'm invited to a lot of very intimate parts of the day, and getting ready is one of them. So, and I'll photograph any wedding. I've shot Oscar winners, and I've shot weddings of trash collectors and everything in between. If somebody wants me there and they pay my fee, I'll shoot it. I think it's just the perfect kind of lunatic asylum for one day, where you're just sort of locked in a room with someone's family. I'm happy it's not my family, but because there would be a homicide. But it would be just this whole experience of just emulsifying your experience, your lived life over someone else's, and trying to interpret it. And thank you for coming. These are pictures I take of dogs at dog runs. I go to the dog run. I call them mental health days, and I just photograph people who kind of look like their dogs. The dog on the end is named Lunchbox. This guy. So yeah, it's pretty great. So yeah, I mean that's it. I would love to hear. And if you want to follow me, that's all my information. That's pretty much all there is to it. Any questions? Just that one time, actually. Actually, I think twice in 10 years. There are pictures of me. There is proof I was there. Yes.
I don't mean this as a criticism.
No.
I'm just wondering, because you're talking primarily about context versus the content of the pictures
Mm-hmm.
that are made. And I looked on your website and I saw that you really heavily advertise, your kind of weddings, event kind of photography.
Yeah, it's a job.
So I'm wondering how you have thought about navigating between, the fine art.
Right.
Yeah,
thanks. I get that question a lot, actually. So, I mean, I think part of it is understanding that. So the question was, how does one navigate the job part of it as opposed to the fine art part of it? And I think anybody who had a job, if they were a painter at night or if they were a photographer or a sculptor, they would just split their time. And I do the same thing. So I shoot quite a lot of jobs commercially, and then I shoot a lot of private commissions. And the rules change a little bit for a job that's a hired job from a client. It's a very specific goal, and you're delivering a job within a certain time frame. Weddings, I've conformed the job scope more around what I would do, what I need. And I still provide a service, but I'm there to give, not to take. So I give my clients, a full roster of the work at the end of the day, but then I own the work and I can edit it in any way I like. And then I have projects that I do on the side, I go to I go to the dog run every weekend and I photograph dogs. And then, a lot of these weddings are commissioned, but some of them are friends' weddings. And I don't really distinguish how I edit them between the two. So. And then the fine artwork, I shop around, obviously, to different institutions like museums and.
How do you talk about that work outside of the context? Do you talk about kind of how it fits into like a larger, I don't know what the word is, but a larger sociological impulse? Or
I don't really understand the question.
In the first project,
Mm-hmm.
you gave us the context in which
Mhm.
you were taking pictures.
Yes.
But the pictures themselves, outside of any information that you gave us.
Right.
Do you ever talk about what the pictures?
Got it. So I don't actually provide a narrative on what's happening in each picture, because I believe, this is my philosophy, that the picture is a new fact. So Gary Winogrand said that the picture is not what's photographed, it's a new fact. And I have just always practiced that. So I don't really give background as to what's happening, because I'm robbing somebody of their ability to interpret what it means for them. So I want someone to have their own experience of a picture. And if I give you too much information, I'm stealing from you. So I don't really practice that. I also don't talk about my subjects and where they're from and what they're doing. I just don't feel like it's relevant to the work. I think someone should be able to enjoy a picture or not enjoy a picture on their own terms. Yeah, makes sense to me. Everyone's different, though. There are photographers who give tremendous context to their work. I'm just not one of them. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Sure. Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. Sure. So it's a 6x9 camera. It's a bit of a wider frame. And, when you go into a room, when you're in a room or a car, for example, you need something a little bit wider, but not super wide, not something that's like none of these fisheye. They don't really distort. So if you're in a house or an apartment and you're kind of shoulder to shoulder with people, you just need something that's this proportion for me. So, and I also like to fit a lot of information into my pictures. Like I jam them full, because that's just what I personally enjoy. So, all of it is very specifically designed around a look that I like, and the camera and the flash and the film is all very slow speed 100 film, and I print them a certain way, and I just want them to have a very kind of, tight feeling look, because I didn't grow up with a lot of elbow room, and I think it's kind of baked into me to sort of create that kind of forced intimacy with the actual frame that I'm using. Like, it's not uncommon for me to just sort of go like this. I'm fairly close to them, but because it's wide, it comes from the waist up and there's a little room on top of the head. So it creates just a really nice spacious rectangle. Does that answer your question? Excellent. Yes. Oh, sometimes, yeah. Oh, sure. Okay, I see what you mean. You mean like the tilt. I think some of that is the function of the lens. So some of it, there is a tilt. Yeah, the staircase, because you have to kind of make it fit. Yeah, I see what you mean. So yeah, there is a bit of a tilt, and I'm really trying to fit something in a specific way, and the basic rules of thirds apply in my brain. So I'm trying to just balance it in my head as I'm shooting it. So I think, yeah, I see what you mean. So, and then ultimately, at the end of the day, you look at it on a context sheet, and these are the ones I've edited. There could be other ones that don't have, that are more uniform, but these are the ones I think that just kind of match the inside of my brain a little bit more. I feel like when I'm asleep, this is what my brain looks like this shape. Yes.
How much did you share the photographs? How often do you put that family over many years?
I don't discuss the family or any relationship that I have to any of my subjects. Nope. Nope. It's not relevant to the work. I mean, having said that, I'm polite, and I go to someone's house and I bring a hostess gift. And that's often, in my case, pictures that I've taken on a previous trip. So, I mean, when I worked at the Joffrey Ballet, I worked there for 2 years, and I was the artist in residence there. And I would go to my darkroom and make some prints because I thought that dancers would like them. But I consider that just kind of part of my practice, but I don't really, I mean, I didn't really keep a log of how many prints I gave away. I just would show up with a box and sort of give them away as I had money to print, because this is just saying goodbye to all your money. Being a photographer, like this kind of photography, it's extremely expensive. So when I had money to print, I would bring prints, but I didn't really, I wouldn't go into it beyond that. Right. Okay. So that, again, that's, I was invited. I don't go anywhere I'm not invited. So the trust is with any subject. If you're invited somewhere, I didn't just magically show up into an apartment. These are neighbors that I had. We knew each other, and I don't discuss pictures of my own family. I don't discuss the context because I don't think it's relevant to the work. So I just want someone to look at the work and create, like you just created this backstory that's kind of beautiful, and that's your experience to have. And that's what I want everyone to have. I want you to be able to have that on your own terms. Okay, great. Yes.
The project that you're working on now,
Yes.
what's the span of years of this work that you're done?
Thank you for asking that. So this project was about 10 years. And then this project is also about 10 years. So we're looking at the 10 years before the iPhone came out. There are some pieces of technology in these pictures. It looks very different to what it looks like now. Right? So there's a phone that's flipped up and a teenager sending a text maybe, or someone's actually talking on it, but there's no ubiquitous like scrolling at a wedding. That it just doesn't exist yet. So this work is that period right before the iPhone came out. And again, this is stuff that you do when you work with an editor and a publisher. And I'm a photographer. I just, all I do is make work. That's it. But then at the end of the day, the work isn't meant to sit in a box. You know, you have to, if you want to have a, you know, like a museum or a show, you know, if you want to have a career, you have to actually take the pictures out and go outside and talk to people. So, which is terrifying. So I would just take the work to my publisher, and they editing with them very closely. And then the design of the book, you know, I'm not a designer, they bring in a designer, and it's done in a very kind of specific way, specific to that journey of that part of the work. So that's how we're doing it right now. Yes.
Is it typical for you to go back into work?
Is it what?
Is it typical for you to, like for books or otherwise,
Mhm.
go back into work that you've had quite a bit of time with? Or
least just a couple examples where that happens to be?
I do it all the time. I do it all the time. So I had to move in December really quickly, and my archive, I really phoned it in when I packed it up. So now I'm in a studio, and I've been able to just take everything apart and make sub boxes out of the boxes and put things up on a board and put them on a table and things I just didn't have any time to do when I had to move. And that's been such a gift because I've actually able to really think about what I'm going to do with my work in the next phase of this particular project. And then I've got other bodies of work that at some point will be addressed. And right now this is, it's second book, and this is what my publisher wanted to go with. And I love the idea. So I just said yes. I've just been saying yes a lot to them because I'm not a designer. I'm not an editor. Everybody has a very specific job. A curator has a specific job, and everybody brings their own set of wiring to that job. And I don't want to I don't want to break up somebody's natural way that they would work by thinking I know it all, because I don't. And I just revisit my work all the time.
So it's
Yeah.
collaborative.
It's very collaborative, yes. And the thing is, when you're a photographer, you're alone a lot. And it kind of creates just this inability to understand what's happening with your own life. And you question all your choices. Like, what did I do wrong? And why am I alone in this room? And why am I looking at all this stuff? And it's fine because it's got a whole other life to live. And then you hand it over to other people and they take charge of it and they guide it as shepherd it. And it is extremely collaborative, but I didn't really get the memo on that until, I had been doing this for a while. Because when I lived on the Lower East Side, this was really my first body of work. I was very young. I lived here because I could afford it. I had a specific time of the day where I would go photograph because it was safe. This was not a ideal neighborhood to be walking around with a camera. So I used a camera that looked like a toy. And I walked around in the morning when it was kids' school runs, moms, dads, that type of activity, because it was safer for me. It was just what it was like. So that's what I did. And I did it for 10 solid years. And then eventually the pictures just kind of sat in a box. And at one point I started shopping them around, and I had some success with it at that point, and then they went back in a box. and then I got some attention for it, and here we are. Yeah. So yes, it is very collaborative. Thank you for that. Yes. I love them. They're just, it's just, come on, right? It's a baby and a Mexican cab. And look at these, it's incredible. It's just the best. It's the best people watching you could possibly ask for as a photographer. And there's no way I would have access to this unless I was invited. So I do say no to some jobs because one more time? Whose wedding? Wait, do you mean the limo picture? That's a Sweet 15. This one? That's not a wedding. No, that's a Sweet 15. That's the cousin. I have never shot a wedding with this, in this part of my life. I had never shot a wedding. This is one body of work, and then this is my first book, and then this is all my second book. That's what weaves these two together. Yes.
Can you talk about I think you might be the first photographer you've had who's published with Latiere.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what that process is like.
Publishing with Latiere?
Or like
I'd love to tell you about that. So
in
that's
general, yeah, but also like maybe what specifically that process is like.
right.
Just hand over your whole archive.
Sure. So I got a lot of press,
Yeah.
and the phone started ringing, specifically after the New Yorker. So I had the good fortune of being profiled in the New Yorker. And then after that, the conversation around my work changed. Not because the pictures were new. They had been around at this point for 15 years. But when you get featured in a place that has this ability to put your audience right in front of you, the conversation about your work changes. And not through anything I did, just through the virtue of getting some attention. And the phone started ringing and I got some publishing offers, and some were too good to be true. You live and learn. And then a friend of mine published a book with L'Artiere, and it was the book that really, I always said if I ever did my first book, I would want it to be like this. And then it full circle kind of went to them, and we found each other, me and the publisher, and we did the book together.
So at that point, had you already like had a pretty tight edit, or did
So-
you like want to see more?
I had been editing this body of work for a long time at this point. And I had already known it would be around 50 something pictures. I knew it wouldn't be a book of longer than that, because it's about a period in a family's life. You know, even my own pictures of my own family are about a period. And I function under the idea that every project is a bit of a time capsule, and I just want to put a little bow on it, make it a time capsule, and then move on to my next time capsule. So this particular time capsule was already kind of ready to be delivered when I met the Italian publisher L'Artiere. So at that point, I had the scans made. I had done a pre-edit of the sequencing. I already had Luna Velez had already written a foreword for the book. She's a esteemable Puerto Rican actress, and she does amazing work. So she wrote the foreword of the book, and I had already written my own essay, and it was basically ready to go. And it saved a lot of time because they wanted to roll it out very quickly, and I had no idea that you could do that. I didn't know that that was a thing. I didn't know you could publish a book in 4 months. I had no idea, but that's what they did. This book, the wedding book, is going to take, I'm working on it now, and we're looking at end of 26. So Perry Photo 26. Same publisher. Yep.
My last question, I think I missed it in your presentation. The New Yorker, how does that come to you? I think that moment that changed your whole.
The moment that changed the trajectory. So, I keep a list. I think everybody has a MailChimp or a constant contact list. And I not regularly, but I will occasionally do a blast. And one of my blasts went to someone who tracked it in, who brought it in. Again, it wasn't anything I did. It was just keep at it. It's exhausting.
Actively trying to get it out there for the 15 years or
Every single day of my life, I have been trying to do something. I think about pictures from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed. I think about shooting all the time. And then in the moments in between shooting, I think about a possible useful way to show my work to people. And I don't always have good ideas about that. Again, I'm a photographer. I'm not a curator, and I'm not a publisher. I just, a lot of it is just keep doing it. Studio visits, print sales, things like that. Yes.
With the introduction of iPhones and social
Mhm.
media, and especially the youth who are so comfortable with iPhones and they almost know how to reverse.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Do you find your work more difficult than before in the 90s? Because like I remember if we had in the 90s, you had a throwaway camera.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Oh yeah, you did have, everyone had a throwaway camera. These are all paper cameras.
And I noticed that, so just curious, do you find it more difficult to get a candid photo where it was kind of captured?
I've never been asked that before. So I like that question. Here's why. Because it's a new thing to photograph. And there's actually a book called The Phone Book. And it's the first book I ever saw of pictures taken on an iPhone. And it's by Robert Herman. And it's a beautiful book. Do you know the book? You don't? Robert Herman did a whole book, and it was in the early iteration of the iPhone. And the pictures are gorgeous. And it's all, and he always said, the right camera is the one you have. And now everybody's got a camera in their pocket. And I think what it's done is it's democratized photography for everyone. Anybody can take a picture now. And I think it's beautiful, because it used to be that, you know, look, you could see my sprocket marks. It's 120 film, reality. It's just, again, just bye-bye money. And it's now anybody can do it. It lives on your phone. You can make a print if you want. You can send it to someone. And it's made photography more of a sharing thing. Whereas to this question earlier, do you share prints? It required me going to a darkroom for 3 days, which is exhausting. So, I mean, if I could just forget that part of my life where I just had to do all that work just to bring hostess gifts, I would. But now you can just take a picture and just send it to someone. And I think it's really beautiful. But I think I think what you mean is the phone being in front of people. Instead of it being like this, it's flipped around. It's desensitized everyone. Exactly. And I think it can create, there can be something quite beautiful about it and something really noisy about it at the same time. I think it's really all in the right hands. It turns into anything. Yeah. Yes, of course.
So kind of thinking about his question, I
Mhm.
was actually hearing more about like how subjects have experienced you
Mm-hmm.
because they pose for photos, and I was thinking also because of how it seems like this. You said this second book is pre-phone,
Pre-phone.
and being at weddings, I can imagine the phone has really changed the way that your photos
Right,
kind of
right.
show up, because everyone's looking at their phone,
Yeah.
and taking photos, right?
Right.
So
It's more used to posing, right? Like
Yeah.
art people more used to being in front of the camera.
Let me
Yeah.
think about that for a second. Okay, so I can't speak for anybody else. When I see people doing that sort of iPhone model thing, it doesn't have anything to do with me, right? And I can photograph it if I want to, if it's something that I think is interesting and compelling for a certain reason or another. But it hasn't changed my job really, because it's understood that the photographer is there to do something and you leave them alone. I don't know any of these people. I know some of the weddings, I'm referred, so I know some of the people there, but I'm not engaged with, and it's very freeing, because then I can just photograph whatever I want and nobody really gets in my way. I think if somebody were to be in a room full of people full of iPhones and it wasn't a wedding, there would be a whole different conversation to be had around that. Yes.
I wonder if it's a unique environment because you're hired
Mhm.
to photograph, and so you're in a very intimate space,
Mhm.
but you're not intimately, like your relationship with these people isn't like they don't know you. So I feel
Right.
like a sort of special place where you can still kind of access these.
It's like
kinds of
church.
images
It's
that
so great.
maybe are harder for people if they know all the people, or just in like other environments where they're like, who is this lady?
Nobody really notices you when you're shooting at a wedding. Nobody really notices you, or they talk down to you, or there's people get drunk and they just act whatever. They do what they do, and that's not a me problem. I'm just there to photograph. I'm not really there to engage with anyone. And someone else's experience of what I'm doing, it's not really any of my business. But I love, to your point, being in these kind of anonymous spaces, right? But I feel like the way I photograph, any photographer would kind of strip themselves out. In an ideal world, you would strip yourself out of the conversation just to be able to photograph. When I worked at the ballet, it was 2 solid years of me trying not to get kicked in the head. Dancers, training, everything. And it was in the middle of a room with 30 dancers doing drills. Nobody really noticed me. Because I think you just start tuning things out. Like you tune things out. No one really knows I'm there. I like it that way. Even though I'm very close to You can see from the camera itself, from the lens work, that I'm quite close to these people, but it's never really been an issue.
Grab one more.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Or two more.
I love it.
As someone who has done wedding photo for work, there are moments where I'm like, oh, that would be such a great photo. And like you're photographing so much that you can kind of do both.
Mhm.
Are you also like, since you're hired to be there, are you taking the like, because not everyone wants like the under the dress that, they want like the with the family and they want those like polished looking, or do they hire you because they're like, Angela's gonna do Angela and we don't care?
That's it.
Cool. So if they're like, I want all this, you're just like, that's not the job.
Well, people who want that wouldn't be interested in this. Attraction, not promotion. Right?
And then my last question is, as you said, you're a printer,
Mhm.
working with these publishers, are you providing prints and then they're sort of matching them?
It's so interesting. This is how it's done now. So I have been sponsored. I have some great sponsorships now that I'm working on my second book. And one of them, the copyright part of it, is this company called Metapixel, and they basically handle all your copywriting for you. It's amazing. But before that, you do all the scans. Every single negative has to be scanned, right? 50 megs, 100 megs, 200 megs, depending on the size that you need. So you scan them, raw TIFF. I have a wonderful lab sponsoring me for the second book. They're called the Picture House, and they're amazing. Aren't they incredible? And they've been scanning these negatives, and I get the raw TIFF, right? And so you make something called a match print. From the TIFF, you get it as good as you can. Like this one is actually a raw TIFF you can see it's not a marked up contact sheet like these. So this is where you start, and then this is where you go. So you get the TIFF, and then I sent it to my lab because I don't have time to print it right now. And they make these things called match prints, so that when you go to press, the press master can look at your match prints and get an idea of the color balance, because it could go in any number of directions. And if you don't really give them a guide, I think you're dead in the water. You really need to give them, it's very collaborative. Everyone's there to work together, and everybody wants to create something beautiful at the end of the day. And if you don't help each other out, it's not going to go anywhere. But I also did go to press in Italy. It was exhausting. Right off the airplane, they promised me coffee. There wasn't coffee. It was a problem. But, oh God, it was so awful. But it was jet lag, 16-hour days. I didn't care. No air conditioning, July, Italy. I didn't care, because it was just so much fun.
They were having you approve each page?
We did it together. I was kind of glazed over from the jet lag. And at one point, I think it was like hour 10 or 11. I said, I can't do this anymore. They're like, Angela, please, just a little more. And I was like, okay, fine. So we just, Angela, if we stop, we can't continue, because the ink will be a different temperature tomorrow. And I totally get that, because I print color, and I only printed in my apartment for years at night because I couldn't light proof it. I had a color processor 5 feet away from where I ate and slept. So it was, yeah. So it was something I was really used to. Like big, smelly, chemically rooms are not foreign to me, but I would, print and just kill my brain cells in the process. And then when I got to Italy, it just felt like I was home again. I said, this is familiar and comfortable. Who needs active brain cells? It was really rough, though. But it's interesting, because the press, it's these baths of ink, and it's the length of this room. It comes out in maybe 30 seconds. It's amazing. And then they bake it with a UV light at the end. And my one request was a spot varnish, but I didn't even have to ask for it, because they offered it. They said, we would like to do a spot varnish. And I said, I would like to let you. So it was great, because they kind of read my mind, and I sort of read theirs, and it was a lot of fun. It was first time I'd ever been on this type of press. I've been on press before, but not at this level. They're third generation Italian printers. I was way out of my depth.
They're pretty good.
They're really good. Their books are beautiful. But I think any really good publisher works with a printer who they have a relationship. These guys happen to have their own, they're the printer and the publisher, which is very unique, which I didn't know. I mean, I don't either. But this is all just new stuff to me. I just, and the thing is that the technology of how it's done changes pretty regularly. And I think now, instead of scanning things on a flatbed, they're photographing the negatives now. And that's my next project, is to set something up where I can actually photograph my own negative on a light table. And oh, I could do it upstairs. Right on. I'll hit you up. I can't wait. So you read my mind. But I was lucky enough to get a sponsor for this second book project. So they're going to, and it's a bigger book, double the size of the first one. I think it's too big, but they love it. So a lot of this is saying yes. It's just saying yes. It's a good idea. Okay, yes. I said no a couple of times on my first book. This book, so far I've said yes to everything. Because what do I know? Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Keep telling us, there's some books over here. I believe you're signing them.
I am.
If you got the money.